Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Geriatric Gaming. Shy Sox Fan 11 here, just to talk very briefly in a quick video about my thoughts on the new update and patch. So, I've taped a couple matches now as Killer, and I streamed a little bit as Survivor. And if you haven't checked this out already over on Twitch, there's the shameless plug to do so at Geriatric Gaming 11, and the link will be somewhere below in the description, where we live stream Survivor rounds at least 2 nights during the week, sometimes more in the occasional Killer rounds as well. But anyway, before we go and get off on any tangent, let's talk about, well, the UI, the HUD, the changes that have been made to Survivor animations, and my thoughts. So I mentioned it in the first match I played that I'm not really a fan of the HUD. I'm not really a fan of this UI, this graphical layout they have for both Survivors and Killers. It's one of those things that, again, my question is, why change something that nobody in the game was asking to be changed? I think everyone who played the game, no matter if you played Survivor, if you played Killer, I think you were pretty much in agreement that the HUD worked fine. You could see what you needed to. It had enough information. The new HUD really doesn't have any more information. I mean, it's got the pictures of the survivors, so I guess that's a good thing, except, the survivors are now up. If you see my cursor up here in the left-hand corner of the screen, if you're playing either Killer or Survivor. And we noticed when we were playing our Survivor matches the other night that the bar showing the progress on the hook just seems very tiny and even harder to see than it was before. And it's a little bit more difficult to be able to tell how much time your teammate has left on the hook if you're playing Survivor. Your items, or in the case of the Killer, your power is highlighted. The Killer powers and the add-ons are highlighted down here in this portion of the screen. And what's the point? As I heard a content creator much better at the game than I am talking about, but he was dead on. As he said, I'm the Killer. I know what my power is, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to remember what add-ons I'm using. So what the point is of making that so visible and taking up such a large part of the screen, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. The perks stay in the same spot. That's good. But the fact that the generators left are up here on the top, if you see again where my cursor is, it's making you look all around the screen and all around the place where you really don't need to, and it just seems like bad design. It seems like it was designed by somebody who doesn't actually play the game. When I play the game, I want as much information in as little an area as possible, because I'm trying to focus, if I'm playing Killer, looking for scratch marks, looking for survivors, seeing what motion they're making, seeing what they're doing. And it's very difficult to try to move my eyes all around. I play on console, so on a television screen, to be able to move all around the screen in all different directions to see, okay, this person has gotten picked up. This person's now off the hook. This is the person that's still injured. Wait, this is how many generators there are left after that one popped. Oh, hold on a second. This is what my cooldown is. I'm looking all over the place, and it's distracting, and it's not particularly good design, unfortunately. And again, it makes me wonder, who in the world designed this? Who ran this through and said, this is going to work for our player base? And again, it doesn't matter whether you're playing Killer or Survivor. I play both. I play both on a pretty equal basis. And frankly, I really found that it was, again, just not very player friendly. And I've heard other people say it, and I'm just going to chime in. It looks like I'm playing a mobile game on my television. And that's not really the look you want for your almost 5-year-old game. That's the biggest asymmetrical horror game out there. You don't want it to look like some cheap mobile knockoff. And I understand the mobile game looks like that because, well, it's mobile. But trying to mirror that, I don't think it's a good idea. The player base, apparently, very much not in favor of it. And it makes me wonder why they rolled it out to begin with. I believe some of their developers have said that there are other things coming in the future that this new setup on your screen will apparently work with. And one of the moderators or developers basically came out and said there's no going back. There's no way to revert this. Well, that begs the question, why in the world would you put something out that you know your player base doesn't like? And the reactions from the public test build pretty much indicated that it was not universally disliked, but I don't know, maybe 80, 85% of the players, maybe even more, did not like it. If you knew you were going to see that much negative opinion on this feature, why did you roll it out to begin with? And that tells me that either A, they weren't listening to feedback and they just rolled it out regardless, or B, they coded it in such a way that there was no way to pull it out unless they completely delayed this patch altogether. And if that's the case, why would you put anything into your game that you can't reverse? Just in case whatever it is you're adding to your game causes a problem with your player base, breaks the game in some fashion you didn't foresee, is very unpopular, whatever the reason is, causes bugs. If you put something into your game that you cannot revert, well, that's just poor planning. And, it's not like this is the first time. It's not like it's the first time behavior's done something that really looks like poor planning. They seem to have dropped the ball when it came to the Twins release. We've seen numerous DLCs or patches that have had bugs in them that break the game. One thing I haven't seen yet in my games playing as Survivor, but apparently hitboxes for Survivor are a little bit wonky right now and are not nearly what they should be, where there are hits registering that maybe shouldn't be landing. Whatever the case may be, there are issues with this patch, but what's the most concerning is that behavior has so many resources that they can allocate. They have so many people working for them. They have whatever their budget is, it's X amount of dollars that they're able to use to pay people to work on aspects of the game. And the fact that they're even spending $1 on doing something like the new UI, this new HUD, it makes no sense. It's spending money on features that no one is asking for, when there are certainly things. There are still bugs in the game from a year ago. There are bugs in the game from longer than that aren't being addressed and aren't being fixed. There are perks that are useless that nobody runs because they're just terrible perks that could be reworked and redone. We still have the key situation that needs to be addressed at some point. Decisive strike was finally addressed, but even that's not a perfect solution. There are ways I think that they could make it better, make it still more of an anti-tunnel. One of my viewers actually suggested that decisive should work on any unhook. In other words, if you had decisive, you could use it more than once a game. So if you get tunneled off of a second hook, you get tunneled and you get hooked. If that way the killer can't just tunnel you again, knowing they've already eaten your decisive. I thought that was actually a great suggestion. They've made changes, but again, there are better changes they could make. There's certainly better adjustments they could make. And anytime you're spending whatever your resource is to do things that, again, no one's asking for, like the layout of the game, and not only is no one asking for it, but when you make it worse, if they'd come out with something that was largely better and the player base was 100% in favor of it, that would have been a good allocation of resources. But there's something called sunk cost, and you hear that term used in a lot of businesses, and it comes down to where a lot of businesses will invest time and money into something, and they just don't want to let that go because their reasoning is, hey, we've put all this time and all this money into this, we don't want to abandon it. Well, it's a sunk cost. Once you've spent the money, once you've spent the time, you're never getting it back. But it absolutely is not a reason to push forward something that people are not happy with. If you're doing that, your sunk cost is gone anyway. You're better off just writing that off, working on something else, making changes, or just putting more time into something to make it work better, than you are pushing out something that no one's going to like. And universally, it seems, no one likes this change. And yet, despite the feedback they got in the public test build, the developers went out and pushed it out anyway. And that's a little bit concerning, but it's not the first time Behavior's done this, and it really makes you question what's going on there. It's worrisome. As a player who really loves the game, I really wish instances like this we saw different results. But again, you go off of a company's track record, and I can't say I'm terribly surprised that we are where we are with this new layout. And again, the player base is not happy with it. They voiced their displeasure with it during the public test build, and Behavior apparently was unable to foresee that and have any contingency for it, or they just didn't care. And either one of those, frankly, unacceptable for a company of Behavior size. And where does it go from here? I think they're going to just take the stance for the player base that, hey, suck it up, get used to it, because that's what you're going to have to live with. And, is that going to drive players away from the game? I hope not, but if it does, Behavior will only have themselves to blame. Anyway, that's going to be my take on this current patch and the changes. Feel free to comment below. Do you like the new HUD and the new UI? Do you like the new layout? Do you not like it? What would you change about it? Certainly, I would like to be able to customize it to go back to the default, but that's not currently an option. What do you think about Behavior's stance on this when still pushing it out, even though no one in the community seemed to like it? Feel free to comment below. That definitely would love to hear your opinions. And also, while you're here, please hit the like and subscribe button and check back with us for new videos on a daily basis. Till the next time, thanks again for listening. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you in the next Dead by Daylight.